Call the town council meeting to order for Wednesday, May the 10th. And I will ask for a confirmation of the agenda. Are there any changes? Administration, please.
Yes, Your Worship, we have a number of changes, or additions, sorry. Under item 6, items from administration, I'd like to add 6.5, meeting with the Agricultural Society.
Thank you.
Item 6.6, upcoming FCSS events. Item 6.7, ladder number 1 update. Under in-camera, item 8.3, item pertaining to a matter under FOIP section 24. Item number 8.4, item pertaining to a matter under FOIP section 24.
Very good. Was it 6.7?
Ladder number 1.
Ladder one.
Clarification, Your Worship?
Yes.
On the 6.6 FCSS events, are those the senior week events?
No, they're not, Your Worship.
Your Worship, if there's nothing further, I'm prepared to make a motion.
We have a motion to accept the agenda as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We have a delegation listed on our agenda, and they're not here yet. That's okay. That's fine.
Your Worship, perhaps council could table the matter until the delegation shows up.
We should go into committee of the whole right now anyways. And
Correct.
then do we table it, do we postpone it in committee of the whole though?
You could, Your Worship,
Okay,
yes.
Good, thank you.
Your Worship, I have one more suggestion.
Go.
The adoption of minutes should take place before moving into committee of the whole, please.
Okay, good. Well, the first motion I will take is that we postpone Mr. Gills until they attend.
That's what I did, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a motion to postpone the delegation until they attend. All in favor? Thank you. And then I will ask for a motion to accept the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of April 12th.
So move, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peterson. We have a minute, we have a confirmation, we have, and I'm going to have a tough time tonight. Yeah, thank you. We have a motion to accept the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of April the 12th. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Your Worship, just a question. I was trying to make a comment in regards to the postponement of the delegation. That motion is a little bit concerning to me, because all it says is we're gonna wait until they come. They may not be here till 11 o'clock.
Well, that's assuming,
Anyway.
yeah, it would only, the postponement in this case, as far as I believe, would only be during the active part of this committee. Go ahead, Administrator.
Yes, Your Worship, the motion would be that council table the matter, and then you can take the matter off the table,
Okay.
or pull it.
Did we do a motion, we got the motion to accept the minutes, did we do the vote? Yeah, I know.
Your worship, I'm prepared to make another motion if you're ready to accept.
Let me write it down.
Sounds good,
I'll
Your
take your
Worship.
motion, please, sir.
Thank you. I'm prepared to make a motion that we move into committee of the whole.
We have a motion to go into a committee of the whole. All in favor? Carried. I think I've met your goal. Sorry. Yeah, no, that's not your fault. Okay. And then head back over there. Good evening. And we are prepared, Mr. Gills, we are prepared to, if you want to do your presentation to council now?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just one short for some reason.
Okay, I can't read into it.
Sorry about that. Hi there, so we came here to talk about just the affordable housing and the CMHC application. So our first topic, the need for affordable housing. As we know, the generation of baby boomers are now becoming seniors, and therefore we are seeing a steady increase to our senior population. With the high cost of living for seniors, affordable housing is in high demand. As we've seen in Strathmore Standard, it's also page 3, the Minister of Seniors and Housing raised the issue for affordable housing. Then for our proposal, which we were looking at doing, would be the discussion of possibly converting hotel rooms into affordable housing. So the hotel, it has 2.3 acres of land, 55 rooms, over 3 floors, including 15 kitchenette units. The kitchenette units are rented monthly. To make the best use of the property, we feel that the hotel can provide affordable housing by converting rooms on the first 2 floors into monthly rental units with full amenities. We also have a Legend restaurant that is capable of providing meals at affordable pricing as well. Part of the reason why we are looking into this matter, as you know, town business in town has been pretty slow. Our occupancy rate has dipped, as I'm sure a lot of other hotels have in town, and we're just looking at different ways to help business and also for the community, because the demand is quite high for the housing that is needed. The application for CMHC seed funding, we applied for the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation and received positive feedback. The application would help fund some of the soft costs and research needed to pursue this project. CMHC would provide funds that would help some of the activities described on page 4. Analysis of need and demand for the proposed project. Preliminary financial feasibility. Preliminary work plan. Project viability assessment plan and analysis. Development or sorry about that. Permits that are needed for all building and whatnot. Special purposes, surveys to gauge demand. So that'd be interacting with community to see what the needs would be for the community as well. The support required by the town of Strathmore. So CHMC requested that our next step would be to talk to town council and pursue support from the town. This letter would not be approval for the project, but gives us an opportunity to study and research to see if this would be in the best interest for us and the community. That's pretty much it. If there's any questions at all, just wanted to keep it short and brief and see what your feedback would be.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Peterson.
Counselor Sobel?
No.
was that anything
No,
else?
you were first, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. So are you only looking at seniors housing at this time?
At this time, we are. We feel that that would best help the community.
And the second question I have, Strathmore has a social housing that's run by the Wheatland Housing Management Board.
Yes.
And as you're well aware, there's always a shortage of affordable housing. And they have different levels of housing. So some of it is simply subsidized for low income. Some of it is subsidized under government programs, and some of it's subsidized through the Wheatland Housing Management Board. So in other words, owners agree to enter into a partnership with social housing, and social housing pays a portion of the rent as per the grants that they're getting from government, and the tenant pays a portion of the grant. Have you considered talking to social housing about that?
No, we have not talked about, that's we are doing the study for. What kind of a need is there. So basically, like, our plan is like how we can be, can study, so can they provide the funds. Whatever the requirements and what kind of the kinds of business,
Yeah.
seniors or other affordable housing, we can do it because we got a big land there,
Yeah.
about 2.3 acres. And we are not going to make any changes at the front for commercial side, but we got lots of property at the back and the entrance at the back.
We're not quite sure also what type of level of care we would, if we wanted to just, like you said, there's different levels, and I think if we were to look into the project more, we could see what would be best suited for our building. At this time, it'd be hard to say exactly if we would have, live in like a nurse on site
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Well, and one of the identified areas of need in this community is with young people, single young people
Yes.
as well, and some of them qualify because of income and other issues, and won't necessarily qualify for social housing under the stringencies of social housing in this community, because it's ranked on a qualifying basis. So, you know, if you have children, you rate higher. The number of children would rank higher. The lower the income would rank you higher on the list. And so those kinds of concerns are very real in this community, and there is a deficit of housing for young people too. And so
That's something.
I'd encourage you, yeah, so,
We
yeah.
could definitely look into that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel?
I think Councillor Fuel was next, but
Was he? Okay, Councillor Fuel.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just had a couple of questions. You talk about how your building has 3 floors. What would be the plans for that 3rd floor?
Oh, because we already have 3 floors there. That's we are saying, like, the first floor, like, we will keep the business for the, like, as regular customers, like on the highway.
So you're saying the motel would be on the main floor?
No, it
and
would be the 3rd floor would be our.
3rd floor would be motel
And then
stairs.
The restaurant and lounge would stay the same.
So do you have plans to talk to someone in seniors and housing as far as a combination of?
Yes, that's
kind of-
the idea. If we could keep the 3rd floor, we would. But if we would have to convert all 3 floors, we would look at that as well. It would be whatever, to make the project go ahead. But that, ideally, we'd like to keep 1 floor for hotel accommodations.
Okay.
So
So would that then leave that VLT lounge the way it is too? And the bar part, would that stay the way it is in your
That would
plans?
stay the same in our plans, but we're not even sure if that would be, we'd be able to keep everything the same. I don't really know.
Okay, so in general, you'd be looking at what would be the requirements from
Yes.
seniors from the Minister of Seniors as far as what would be best for the people who might possibly rent there?
That's right. We would have to comply by any rules.
And you have an elevator?
Yes, we have an elevator.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to get a kind of a,
Also, I want to say, like, because from the front, we can use the regular, restaurant guest and other guests, and we can have for the senior, the affordable housing entry from the back, because there's a lot of room there.
okay, thank you.
And Counselor Sobel, please.
Thank you. So I guess my question, I'm just trying to get a sense of what this is going to look like, and I appreciate that this is very early in the stage, but but I also want you to appreciate the fact that if I'm going to vote to provide a letter of support, I want a fairly good idea as to what the end result of this is going to be, and I don't know, I'm not sure if that's even possible at this point, but my question pertains to when you say converting the rooms in point number 2 here. Are you talking about bringing in kitchen facilities, et cetera?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and do you have any sense what the rentals would look like?
At this point, it all depends on the level of care that we would need to provide. And for the support that we're requesting, it would just be support for us to look into this project further. There would still have to be a vote as to whether we could go forward with the project. It would just be, if you were to give us support, we could bring the research and do a proper presentation for you to see if that you'd like to go forward with an approval of the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor Sobel.
Just a second, I want to add something, like, we already have like 15 kitchen units, and we try to rent on monthly basis.
Counselor Graychuk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. Firstly, and I know this is following Councillor Sobel's question somewhat. The rooms are about how big now? And the reason I asked that question is I'm on the Wheatland Housing Board, and I'm familiar with what the needs are a bit.
The room size is, I think it's 11 by 50 now, but it can be increased because the way the structure is, like, we have the big window, and if we want to increase, like, we can increase on the side, it's both sides we have. That's my own opinion, but it will be looked on, like, how it can be done. The rooms can be increased because we want to change the old windows. Windows are like when the hotel was built in '78.
So you wouldn't think of joining two rooms together or something?
Yeah, that would be a possibility as
Yeah,
well.
okay. Because that's, seniors now are asking for bigger and bigger places.
That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
we could provide that where we join two rooms into one.
And the other thing is, and this is more for administration, and again, this is a bit premature, but is it possible to have that kind of zoning? If I may just ask the question?
Through the chair, we've been in touch with CMHC and Mr. Gill since May of 2016, when we were contacted by CMHC, or we were copied on the letter. The department has stated that we will support a land use bylaw amendment to allow dwelling units as a discretionary use of the highway commercial district. And depending on the terms and conditions of the development permit, we will support a development permit application to convert sleeping units into dwelling units, but we require an application. The risk of just giving an approval in principle or a letter of support is it may be seen to be prejudicing a public hearing in advance of a public hearing. And so we support it. We will not discriminate who lives there. It's a dwelling unit. We cannot restrict, well, certainly not as a municipality, restrict it to seniors. The Senior Citizens Housing Act was revoked, I believe, in 1992. So we would look at it as a dwelling unit, and we would evaluate it on that basis.
And
I think as far as the administration is concerned, submit the application, and we'll process it.
thank you. And before I'm prepared to go into a letter of support at this moment, this meeting, I would like to go into camera with council, and there's a couple other things I would like to discuss privately with council. Okay? That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graychuk. In regards, and if I might, in regards to the study, who will be doing the study?
We have to have the special professional person who does the study for the senior housing and affordable housing.
So it'd be a third party we would get bringing into the project and helping us.
It would be somebody that would be approved by CMHC to do the
Yes,
study.
yes.
And CMHC is the one that's putting the money up for the study?
Partial.
Partial? What part?
Depending on the application, I believe how much are they willing, or,
I think they start from like about 50,000, something like that, and then they go up how the project is.
Okay.
That's was mentioned in the application.
50 to 200, is that?
Yeah. It could be maximum up to 200,000. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And administration understands what they're asking in regards to this letter of support, and we can talk further with you in regards to it. Okay, good. Councillor Fuel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one more comment while you're still early in the process. Following Councillor Sobel and Graychuk's comments, I would be a bit hesitant as far as supporting this, knowing that one floor might be motel stairs coming off the highway. I think the thing we need to remember in your planning is that these places are seniors' homes. And so I would be a little hesitant and worried about people coming off the highway and staying as far as noise and the way they carry themselves above people who are making this their home in their later years.
There is actually how big's the gap for the?
On the third floor, we kept, when we did the addition on like in the year 2002 with the city building permit, we kept the old roof like there. It's a floor. And there's a crawl space between 3 feet there. So it's not that.
You really
kind of
don't
issue.
hear anything between
Yeah.
floors whatsoever. I am aware though, with guests coming in and things that can happen in a building where there are guests up top. So if it wasn't possible and there were concerns by senior housing or whatnot, then we would not move forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. No further questions? No? Okay. We appreciate your time. Allow us to do some thinking and some research in regards to this.
Perfect, thank you.
No, we can't do a motion in camera, or in committee of the whole.
We can do it, are we going in camera later?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's intriguing.
Next item on our agenda is Disaster Services Grant Letter for Support for Wheatland County. Mr. Chief West, I guess that's the correct term, if you might.
Mister's my dad. Thank you. Thank you, council, and good evening. This is a request for a resolution of council in support of an emergency preparedness grant that the county has and an initiative that we would work on together to be able to collaborate. So they have a grant. They want us to be partners in spending that money to develop the plan for us to work collaboratively together and not in isolation. It's a tremendous opportunity, and some history, just a brief piece of history that I was provided was they previously had approached the town when the grant application went in to ask if the town would be partners, and were not met with a favorable response. Not the town administration. Okay. So now they're coming back to us, asking us to be part of the actual exercise and building the exercise and strengthening our partnership in emergency preparedness.
Thank you, Chief West. Councillors Walls.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chief, thank you very much. Will this be a tabletop exercise or will it be actually a live exercise?
They actually have received a significant amount of money. So once we have prepared all of our internal plans, which are aligned with their plans, we will have a full-blown exercise, and the plan is to also have Siksika involved in that, in the full development and build-out, so that all of the partners in the region are involved.
Awesome, thank you.
No further questions? And I guess if we're going to need a motion on this, we will have to do it after we come out of committee of the whole? Because that's what you need as a motion?
A resolution of council, yes. Yes.
Resolution of council? Okay. So it will be after we come out of committee of the whole.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is the council procedural bylaw review. Ms. Sawatsky, you have the floor.
Good evening, Your Worship. Everybody's favorite topic, procedure, I know. So we're bringing the procedure bylaw back, according to council's instruction when they passed the procedure bylaw, to discuss a number of changes or amendments, possible amendments, that administration has noticed and that council has brought up. I've listed a number of concerns in my report, and I encourage council to submit or to bring anything else up that comes along. This is meant to be a discussion about the procedures, so that we can draft an amendment as needed. So the first issue that we noticed was around question period. There's been some confusion, I think, with council between question period and administrative inquiries, and also what belongs in question period. So we've made a suggested amendment to this section to change the title, number one. I think that will help alleviate some of the confusion. Change it from question period to questions between councillors and council statements. We didn't really have a spot for council statements before, so we're putting it under question period, but I think that it belongs here. There is one error in my report, I apologize, in the red section, 78D should state where a question has been asked prior to the expiry of the 20-minute period, that matter may be concluded. So I should read 20 minutes. The next item, yeah,
Do you want comments as we,
whatever council wishes.
so,
Councillor Sobel.
thank you. So, first of all, I really like that section coming in. I think you're right. I think it's going to clarify a lot of things with this section coming in like this. However, I seriously have some issues between in C and D. If I understand this 20 minutes, if seven councillors are asking questions, that's 3 minutes each. I don't like being handcuffed in this fashion. And I'd like to eliminate the time requirement on this section.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson.
I know this is strange coming from me, but we can leave this, and then if there's a reason to extend it with a 2/3 majority, we can, correct? We can suspend that.
Your worship, it does read at the moment that no motion to extend question period shall be made. So we
that's
could
the part
change
I don't
that,
like.
we
Yeah, I
could
would
change
just
that
take that
section.
out. Because you shouldn't tie council's hands when they need to discuss something of import. So, I think that the 20-minute guideline is useful, but I also think that it should act on a 2/3 majority basis to extend it.
So,
Councillor
So,
Sobel.
thanks. So I'm just seeing two ways of looking at this. One, we shouldn't be handcuffed, but two, we should have a time frame that we can extend. I'm just not sure why we're going down this path.
It's good.
I don't want a guideline on questions that I'm going to be asking in this section. I mean, I don't know that we've ever gone over the 20 minutes. It usually doesn't take that long, but the fact that it's there and to stop something to go into a 2/3, I'm having a hard time understanding the reasoning for the guideline.
Thank you very much. Who was first, Councillor Peterson or Councillor Graychuk?
Oh, I've already done it.
She's first.
I just in response to, the reason that I say this is that the 20 minutes once you can move a two-thirds majority to extend it, the 20 minutes acts as a guideline. And those are important things for people who chair meetings. And, you know, to keep an eye on that and to remind council to move a meeting along. If I care about something really passionately and, you know, I can filibuster, I can keep you here all night. You know, and so I think that.
You do anyway.
That's why it's useful to have the guideline there.
If I might, Mr. Thackeray?
Oh, you had your light on first, did you?
Yes, he did, but I thought you were adding something in regards to what was said here.
No.
No?
I
Okay.
just have-
Councillor Graychuk?
Just a small point, and B, is that council members? It says members only, is that what it means?
Yep.
Okay. And secondly, yeah, there could be an important issue that we'd have to extend things. That could be a issue that has to get discussed that night and has to go past the 20 minutes. I'm kind of along, if we took out the portion of only, and then we could go as long as we want. No motion of council extends question between councillor and council statement. And then that way we're allowed to go as long as we want, aren't we? Aren't we?
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead, sir.
Could we, taking your comments, what I'm hearing is that you want us to tone down the rigidity of this, make it more flexible, maybe based on a two-thirds vote, make it a guideline. If we go and take this away, we'll rework some verb from language and move it to you. Just that might, because we hear what you're saying, and I think we could accommodate because the intention is not to hamper council, the intention is to try and provide edges to work with, as I say. Are you okay with that? Okay, thanks, we'll do that.
Did you have something, Ms. Swatsky?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that there are other avenues that council can take if important matters do come forward, such as administrative inquiries. It could be added to the agenda as an agenda item, or it could be a notice of motion if more information is needed. So there's a lot of avenues council could take with that.
And if I might, I certainly like the idea in regards to allowing council to speak on important issues. But bearing in mind what Councillor Peters said in regards to a filibuster where somebody can continue to keep us occupied and the item would stay on the agenda until who knows when. So with that in mind, administration will be bringing back a revised. Okay. Councillor Graychuk.
Thank you. In regard to that, that kind of scares me. Is there a way for the chair to stop a filibuster in Canadian politics? There is a way?
Could be two-thirds majority.
Well, she's talking, I'm sorry. What? I know, but while the person is talking, if they just keep on talking, will you interrupt, the chair interrupts them, or what happens?
I do believe the chair has the authority to interrupt.
It could be out of order, and I think you could also, if there's a question, that you could call a question, or you could propose, you could move a
Adjournment?
postponing, well, you could move a postponing motion, which has to be voted on and can't be debated.
And the other question I got is, why not we just take out committee of the whole? Why don't we just go council? Doesn't that save a lot of?
You could, but then we couldn't have this informal discussion like we're having now. I would have to go through the chair, and the chair would have to recognize me, and then we'd have to go like that, as opposed to a less formal discussion.
Okay, that's the only difference. Yeah.
Well, that's one difference, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm just wondering, trying to shorten things up. But, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And I'll just double check with administration. Do you need anything further from us in regards to thoughts on that
Any
item?
other
Okay.
comments on the report, or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
keep going?
Okay, so the next item that we identified that could use some looking at is council's committees. And there's a number of items within this section that need to be looked at and discussed by council. So council currently has 9 committees. Administration is recommending that council reflect on their committees to consider, number one, the effectiveness of their committees. One thing that we have noticed is that not all committees come and report back to council. Council has set mandates within the terms of reference for those committees, as well as tasks, for lack of a better word, that they want their committees to look at. An important part of council committees is them doing the work that council wants them to do. And if council isn't aware of what the committees are doing, how can council keep them, what's the word? How can council make sure that they're doing their work, right? So it's important to look at the effectiveness of the committees, and one committee in particular we don't have anyone sitting on, and that's the Public Arts Board. That committee was established, I believe, last year. We've advertised numerous times, and we've only ever had one person show interest in the committee. So it would be recommended that council look at those committees maybe on a yearly basis, or even, a shorter time period, to determine how effective they are.
Councillor Peterson?
I think that the Public Art Board, just to speak to that one because it's on the paper in front of us, part of the reason that it hasn't gotten off the ground is that people are struggling with the terms of reference to see purpose because we have no public art. So until such a time that happens, it's difficult for people to see that. But there are interested individuals, as I've mentioned to you outside of meetings, there are people that are interested that from each of the art societies. So people that are with Wheatland Society of the Arts have come to me, people from the Musical Society, Strathmore Musical Society, and from the Strathmore Theatre Players. They have all come forward saying that they are interested, but they would prefer a discussion on the terms of reference. So I think that there is difficulty, and there's no need to report on this board because it doesn't exist, and I'm okay to have it sit there because the conception that we had initially started with maybe isn't appropriate. So yeah, I think it's good to have a look at some point.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson.
The next matter that we've had some concern with is delegated powers to committees. The reason we've had concerns with this is because there's a lot of committees that have staff sitting on them. There's a lot of committees that need resources. One of the reasons we would like committees to come and report to council, or that it's good for committees to come and report to council, is so that they can get their projects and their goals, I guess, not really goals, but projects and initiatives, that's the word I'm looking for, approved by council. And that's important because a lot of times committees need to use resources from the town, whether it be directly or indirectly, such as staff time, or if they need supplies for some of their stuff. And all of that, there's a cost to all of that. As council is fully aware, staff report directly to the CAO. So committees directing staff to do stuff which takes staff time, the CEO should be made aware that that is happening. And council should be approving that because the town resources are being used. That's one matter that...
Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, it's very difficult to understand what this is if we don't have examples to back it up. So I can think of all kinds of possibilities, but I'm not on certain ground here.
Okay, I can give an example. So for instance, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, the DDRC committee, there's a staff member on that committee who uses a large portion of their time working on projects for that committee. Some approved by council, some not approved by council. But it can become onerous on a department when one staff member has become inundated with projects that, number one, council might not be aware of, and even the CAO isn't aware of. So that's the concern that we're talking about.
And further to that, the same thing can happen. So the seniors committee, and I'm not just sure, I haven't checked the terms of reference, but I think the terms of reference say that council approved $5,000 a year once they request it. I think that was in the initial terms of reference. Do you recollect that? I think it was in, but I'm not sure. But that's another thing, I think, that, you know, and they report quarterly to council, and it's okay, but they had questions around that process and procedure. And I don't know if this is where we talk about the minute taking, where you have staff members taking minutes on those. Is this where we have that
So we do
discussion?
have that further on in the
Okay.
report as well. I also want to mention that this is good for the committees too, because it's ensuring that the committees are getting the support that they
Mm-hmm. The
need.
work gets done.
Right?
That's the seniors issue.
Yes.
And then the other issue is, I was appointed by council to sit on the overnight shelter board as a person to monitor, or I guess to have input from, on behalf of council for the money that council had, the skin that they had in that game. So that is coming to a conclusion, because very soon they will have everything in place. They've raised all the money necessary to do all the updates, to put in their sprinkler system, and it will be a go. And then I need direction from council at that point. They've asked me to stay on. I don't know what my reasoning is at that point from a council perspective to be there. And so those are other questions that I have as well.
Okay.
Yes.
So the next item that administration is recommending is that council reference within the procedure bylaw, council's code of ethics, and that committee members need to be held accountable to those code of ethics as well. That's actually being mandated through the new changes to the MGA, that council must pass a code of conduct bylaw.
Councillor Walz?
Your worship, just to go back to our manager there for a second on delegation of powers to committees. So would it be your recommendation then that the committee would prepare a report, stand before council, say, we wish to accomplish A, B, C, and D, here's our staff resources, here's our budget for every project?
That is the recommendation,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. I just want to be clear on that, thank you.
And
Councillor Sobel.
just further than that, and that should come to council as a result of the minutes that are being taken by the staff member in the monthly report, should it not?
So, your worship, it would come to council in those minutes. Administration would recommend, though, that the committee provide a report to council on the project specifically.
On specific projects?
Yes.
Otherwise, if I may, there's nothing to say that the minutes can't cite, saying there's something that the committee says that's important, they want to bring it to council's attention, they want to celebrate the success of something, thumbs up, and it could simply be kept in, it's a one-liner from the committee. Hey, council, we just wanted to share this with you, or want to recommend this to council, council could say thumbs up or thumbs down. Let's just keep, that way everybody's in the loop.
Okay, the next issue is talking about what Councillor Pearson just brought up, and that was committee members taking minutes and doing recording of meetings. At this time, it's not our recommendation that committee members take minutes. Right now, we're just starting to record things properly, and until we get that in place and solid, personally, I find it uncomfortable to have appointed members taking minutes. It's under the control of the Legislative Services Department, and I just want to ensure that things are being kept to the standard that they need to be, and it's a little bit easier to achieve that with staff doing it.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
Could I just add
Oh,
one
go ahead.
thing? We're not intending this to be necessarily a permanent measure, but right now we want to do this because we don't have consistency in keeping the corporate records and keeping track of the corporate records, and they're not being archived or cataloged properly. So we need to do that, and that's why we're doing, for example, the records management program right from the get-go. Because again, they are a corporate record of the organization, and accountability in the act falls to my office. So I have a care and a duty of care, for those records. So I just want to make sure they're all tickety-boo, and that And I just want to support Jen and her job doing that. And then once we figure that out, then we can make it easy. We can send out templates saying, make it easy for committees. I've done this before, it's not hard, but we do have to figure out what the end state looks like first, and then we can roll it out after. So it's going to take a bit of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
So I agree with everything you said. I understand the duty of care and the responsibility. I also understand that as a councillor and as somebody responsible to a committee, that we've asked them to do a job and they have a service to provide in the community, and part of that is in the communication part. So when committees say that they are, that the minutes are not reflecting their book of business, that they're not being kept correctly, that there are things that are wrong, that they're not being cleared up in amendments, that may or may not pose a difficulty for you, but it definitely poses a difficulty for the committee. So I hear what you said with regards to minutes versus committee reports. And I see potential in that. So I would be very comfortable with the two happening in a parallel universe until such a time as you felt that some usable and diligent process had been reached. But at this point in time, it's not satisfactory.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I talked to
Mrs.
Ethel.
Bertram?
Yeah, and she shared that she felt that the transaction of business wasn't accurately reflected in the minutes, and that is an issue, and we have talked about it internally, and want to change that and to ensure that we do have a reasonable representation of the business transacted. If somebody wants to write a report, that's okay too, send it through. They can light it out, no problem. Again, we just want to make sure we get copies of it, and we've already connected on that, so.
Yeah, and the seniors communicated that again to us today. So I think that so that due diligence can happen on your part.
Yeah, great,
And duty of
awesome.
care can happen.
Yep.
And then they can also have committee reports, and that can be given here.
Yep,
Fantastic.
that's great, thank you. Good advice.
Thank you very much. Are you okay with that section right now?
Yes.
I'd like to go back to section C quickly and make sure that we are all in agreement with section C, or make sure there was no questions in regards to it. I know it was just mentioned and then we jumped back, and I just wanted to make sure we were through with that and everybody was happy with it.
I don't have a question, but I think it's present now, but I like the idea of spelling it out very nice and clear so that there's no question there. I still think all committee members do fall under the code of ethics that the council has, as they're a committee of council, but I certainly support having that spelled out in black
And having them sign it?
and signed.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. So number 3 in the report references a new committee that administration will be bringing forward as part of the amendment to this bylaw, and that is for a tourism development committee. The terms of reference were attached to the report, and the committee will provide assistance to the town tourism initiatives to gather local community and industry information in order to build a solid understanding of creating a destination marketing organization and increase local tourism activity. So that'll be coming forward as part of the amendment. Questions? Okay.
Councillor Graychuk?
Thank you, Your Worship. In that, and realizing that we may not always be members of the Canadian Badlands, I hope we are, because I think we're just moving forward with something. It's a long, slow process, but we're really moving forward with them right now. I feel, shouldn't they be mentioned, because I don't want to double do things, or could we mention them in there or somehow? Or should they be in there, or, I mean, I don't want to double work, so to speak.
It's not a committee of council though, is it? Badlands is an external organization, so this is only for our committees that are constituted by the town, not external appointments. So that would simplify it if it wasn't.
How do we communicate between the two so we're not double?
So
Is
you're
what-
between tourism and Badlands,
Yeah,
that could be assigned as part of the term of reference to make a requirement that they do communicate.
okay, that's all I ask, yeah.
If that's- is that-
Yeah, but that's fine, that's all I ask, yeah.
I think I just don't understand what you're trying to add.
He's trying to add communication between the Badlands, so there's liaison between the tourism committee and the Badlands organization. That there isn't get lost. And that there's no duplication, I think that's your intention.
Yeah, so that we don't, I'd like to work in conjunction with them, so, and that they're aware of what some of the things we're doing. I don't want to double work some issues sort of thing.
Yeah, sure, that's totally fine, yeah.
Yeah,
That was the intent, and so if we wanted to put that in there, absolutely.
yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Graychuk. Councillor Peterson.
I ask this with the greatest of all respects and of the members here that sit on DDRC, but is there an overlap between having a tourism development committee and a DDRC? And would it not make sense for the two of them to be working together or as one? It would seem to me that, developing a DMO or the preliminaries leading up to a DMO, the two previous stages, that's exactly the kind of work that the DDRC has been engaged in, and this would seem to me to be a logical transition into something different.
Okay. That would be
Ms. Simpson?
So the terms of reference recognizes someone from the DDRC.
I see that. I see loads of overlap though, and potential for conflict too.
I think it depends on what the purpose of the DDRC is going to be moving forward as we look at developing more downtown identity, for lack of a better word.
Which is the work of the DMO, right?
Yeah, partially, right? Like the DMO is gonna look at Strathmore as a whole.
Mhm.
The DDRC and downtown revitalization focuses on the downtown specifically. So there's definitely overlap and they need to work together, which is why we thought it was important that they had a representative on the committee. I think moving forward, perhaps we wait and see how the first kind of 6 months go as we go through the development towards the DMO, and once we get to that stage, reevaluate at that time.
Sure.
If we're ready yet to combine them.
Yeah, I think there's great wisdom in that, yeah, thanks.
Could I suggest we put that in the term, saying we'll review in 6-9 months or something?
When
Councillor Peterson.
when I looked at the meeting that was held the other night that I really wanted to attend and couldn't, what I saw was so many of the things that experts in that whole area of DMOs work toward. It was exactly what the DDRC was doing. And what they do for the downtown, they do for the whole community too. And so to me, that working towards a meld would make a lot of sense to me, and we could throw all our resources behind it, would be a great thing.
Thank you. Councillor Fuel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in response to that, I think at last night's mini conference, one of the speakers talked about developing your overarching vision and goals economically and development-wise. And then I see that as being, the DDRC would then fit into that umbrella and implement those goals and ideas within that downtown setting. So there's plenty of opportunities for communication between the two groups, but it does talk about having to establish an overarching kind of a vision for what the economics or the development of the town is, and then DDRC would just implement that as far as in that downtown area with its businesses.
Thank you. Continue.
Okay, next is in regards to appointment of public members to committees. Councillor Peterson brought this matter up in 2016. Administration, we're bringing it forward with our recommendation to council. Our recommendation is for council to move to an application process for public members and establish qualifications for each of their committees. This would not hinder anybody from applying to a committee or being appointed to a committee. It would set guidelines for council when weighing candidates against each other for appointment to a committee for qualifications and suitability. We also recommend that council set maximum terms for committee members. We know that we've had instances where members of the public are wanting to sit on a committee, but we've had members on the same committee for 5 or more years, and people waiting to get on, but with no opportunity to do so. Setting a maximum term would allow for that. And we've also said that council could put an exception into the terms of reference saying that those maximum terms could be that they could serve longer in extenuating circumstances.
Councillor Fuel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, yes, in following what you just said too, Jen, I'm on the committee for the Youth Club Board, and we have struggled to get members and keep members. So that's one where we would have to have some input from council to allow, you're talking committee, council appointed ones. Okay, I'm sorry, I started to think about the youth club, sorry.
Councillor Fuel, or Sobel?
Thank you. Yeah, I like all of this. I think it's a good idea. I'm not so sure that we should be handing over the idea of maximum terms to council. I think that's an administrative task, and I certainly would have an issue with administration doing that. I'm anticipating the one problem that we continue to have right now, and that is having trying to decide which member has to go and which has to stay in certain circumstances, which could happen with expiry dates. If you have 4 of your council members are serving 2 years and there's 2 people waiting to get on, you've got to let 2 go, and because there's 2 new people coming on, and that's great. It's fantastic to have that kind of a problem. However, how do you choose which 2 go? And we're right back to one of the problems that I see right now. But I love the idea of maximum terms, and my only problem is if we're going to stagnate those things, which is probably the right thing to do. If we're going to stagnate the expired the terms, then it becomes really complicated. So, but that's, I think, administration's task. I would try to keep it as simple as we can. Personally, I would even 2-year terms, 2-year terms, and whatever. Thank you.
Councillor Graychuk?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sorry, I don't know where it belongs better, if it's in here yet. What about misconduct by a committee member? Is that someplace in there?
Yeah, Your Worship,
It
that
would
would
be in
be
the code of-
addressed in the code of
Okay,
ethics.
yeah. Thank you.
We get to move on. So we've already kind of touched on this, but, oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, we haven't. So council's external committee reports. A number of councillors have mentioned that they would like to give committee reports at council meetings. Administration is recommending that we include a provision within the bylaw for council to do this, but that it not be mandatory. If council wants to report on a committee, it is recommended that they fill out a form so that that report can be put into the agenda so that it's on record. And then council may report on it at the council meeting if they so choose. And we've included the amendment in there for reference. The next matter is under administrative inquiries. Right now in the bylaw, it states that the clerk will read the administrative inquiry into the minutes. We've had some council members who have wanted to read their own inquiry. Administration is recommending that we include a provision in the bylaw so that members may read their inquiry if they so choose. That's good.
So, Your Worship, thank you.
Councillor Wells?
Just to point out, quick clarification, so if I send in an inquiry and I don't want to read, I just put on there, don't want to read? Can you do that?
Your Worship, you would only request or inform council and the clerk if you want to read it. If you don't inform myself or council, then I will read it into the minutes. And then, sorry?
I guess, thank you. It's a question to you, Jen, and I know, like, I just want to, I guess, ask you if you're seeing value in these administrative inquiries. I personally like them, I support them. I just want to know if it's making administration's job a little easier to do it that way.
Your worship, it is. It's letting administration, giving administration time to do research on matters that council brings up, which is valuable both to administration and to council, so that you're getting all the information you need to make a good decision. It also, having administration read it into the minutes, it kind of stops council from debating on something that other councillors haven't been given notice to. It's kind of a way of giving notice as well. Okay, lastly, Councillor Sobel requested that we bring information forward regarding appointment of deputy mayor. And really, administration has just put some information in this report for council to discuss amongst themselves. I don't have a recommendation about appointment to deputy mayor. You could do a number of things. Most municipalities, I would say, appoint a deputy mayor on a rotating basis. There are some that appoint a deputy mayor yearly throughout the term, and there are some municipalities that appoint a deputy mayor throughout the whole term. It's really what council wants to do, and we've just included that information so that council can discuss the matter.
Councillor Sobel?
So from here, would a motion to notice a motion be appropriate to bring this up at a future council meeting in order to have a discussion? And if so, I would like to, would I have to do this out of committee of the whole?
I guess, do you want to have a discussion just about the deputy mayor and/or acting mayor? Or do you want to have a discussion about including the deputy mayor, acting mayor role in the procedure bylaw, the procedure bylaw?
Well, I think the discussion is going to be fairly wide when it opens.
Okay.
But my personal position is that I'd like to have a discussion about the prospect of having a permanent deputy mayor for the next, starting in October of 2017.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. How do you feel about having a acting mayor rotation as well?
I'm not in favor.
Okay.
That's just me. But once again, I think, yeah.
I'm just throwing it out.
Yep.
Just providing the tools for consideration, that's all.
Go ahead, sir.
What's the difference between acting mayor and deputy mayor?
You'd ask me that. I'd have to go look it up in the legislation. There is a difference.
Is acting mayor in case the present mayor is sick and gone for 6 months? Is that what that means, or?
Can I go look at?
Yeah, no, you can let us know next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you mean acting mayor or acting deputy mayor? You meant acting mayor? Okay.
He's just an associate acting deputy mayor. Oh, my lord. Sorry. Okay.
And you said that was your last item on there?
Yes, Your Worship.
Councillor Peterson has one other item she would like to
Actually, was it?
Can I bring up?
bring forward.
Thank you. Some of you know that I belong to a women's networking group for aspiring politicians and people wanting to get involved in committee work and political networks. One of the things that's come to my attention repeatedly is this concern in the recent procedural bylaw about the 6 o'clock meetings. This is particularly of interest to young parents who say that the 6 o'clock meeting would be a great hardship. And so I know that it's more convenient for staff, but I don't think that it's more convenient for public representation. And I'd just like to bring it up here for council to consider. I think that it's a very real barrier.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Walls?
Yeah, Your Worship, just following on that comment, I'm having some significant troubles making this time. I have not even been home yet tonight, which is fine, but I'm having significant difficulties making this work.
Would it be easier to have earlier meetings or later meetings? Like if you could start, I mean, you could start at 9 AM if you want. The options are open. Or is it because you're right, if it's a barrier for somebody, and we do stream, so.
When I talk to, sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, Councillor Wall
Yeah,
still has the
that's the floor.
floor, and then Councillor Fuel is next. That's okay.
Our only intention was just to end the meetings earlier. We don't care. We're here for the duration, we're good.
And I totally appreciate that. It's just, it's, if it was a day meeting, then I would run on that, bearing on that day meeting. If, for example, if you work with Wheatland County, their meetings are Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So, it would be, maybe days would work better. We'd just have to have a conversation about that. I'm having significant time making 6
This is
o'clock.
an awkward time.
It's just, it's a real bad time. 6:30 was sometimes stretching, but I could at least make that work.
Councillor Fuel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple comments about the barriers. I think we're always going to find barriers based on the time we have these meetings. But I think if we try to move to daytime meetings, you're going to put a barrier up to anybody who has a job, and it's going to really affect them. I'm kind of amazed that the county has 9 AM meetings or whatever, because that excludes a large chunk of people who would never be able to go because they have jobs. So having them after the day of the work gives a large chunk of the population the ability to run for public office and be a councillor and be able to do the job after a day of work. The 6 o'clock meeting, I get that it's a little more difficult, but if you start to go later the way we used to, then you start to run into meetings that end at 10:30. And I know we have the 2/3 majority to extend if we choose to. But I would caution against going to a daytime meeting, because you're gonna prohibit a large chunk of people who would like to have a chance to be in public office.
Councillor Peterson?
I think one of the things that's really important to me is that the councils represent the populations, and I don't think that they do across the province. I think that's pretty clear. And the two groups that are hugely missing from that are young parents and women. And I think that the barriers that exist, I agree with Councillor Fuel, daytime meetings certainly doesn't resolve that problem at all. And so the barriers are, the groups that I spend my time with tell me that Saturday meetings might work in cases where there's spousal support, but what really works for them is being able to feed their children supper, be with their families, and then go to a meeting. And so this is a barrier. I think there's lots of data around it that we can access. There is a group in AUMA that's done lots of work very recently, and I think that we could utilize that and go forward with some really solid evidence base for looking at the process. I appreciate at least the opportunity to discuss it. And I really take to heart when I hear Councillor Walls say, I ran because I knew that our council meeting started at 7 o'clock, and I am responsible for 2 young children, and now council starts at 6 o'clock. I'm hearing, I think that's what he's saying, and I think that's a really good point.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess the only comment I would make is that I think starting at 6 o'clock certainly achieves the goal of finishing earlier. However, since we started Committee of the Whole meetings, I think our regular council meetings have shortened because there's more work being done at Committee of the Whole that's relevant to our regular council meetings. So instead of having a 4-hour meeting and a 1.5-hour committee CAO meeting, we're now having 2.5-hour meetings both times. So I don't know if it's as big an issue as it was in regards to finishing time. I think I think it's sort of evened out, and I certainly have absolutely no problem with going back to 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we're fine with whichever. We're just trying to provide options. Like,
Changing midstream is unfair.
Councillor Graychuk.
Thank you. I don't have a problem going either way, of course, but just that I think we must be consistent. It's confusing for some people. Well, is that a 6 o'clock meeting or 7 o'clock meeting? And it sounds trivial, but it's very important for the community, and I think we've got to either be one or the other. As far as the other communities are concerned, there's all kinds of scenarios that people use. The county, for example, I don't want to, maybe they could get more acreage people on it who have to work. They got mostly farmers there now, and that's not disrespectful, it's just that's the way it is. Farmers can come at any time of the day, but maybe they would have more other workers if they were, other people, if the workers were able to do it at night. So, I mean, it's the same with us. We can't satisfy everybody. It just is that way. We just can't do it. It's one or the other or something, Thank you.
I think Steve brings up a good point, though. Would you be amenable to reviewing it? Because if we change, if council's proposing to change the time again, that would be another change. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And then if so, when would you like to start it? Or if not, do you want us to make a decision in the fall for the new council to consider? What would you like to do? Okay, I'm a little confused.
Well, so my preference would be, in thinking about what Councillor Walls just said, I think there's an injustice in changing midstream. And I recognize that Councillor Graychuk's comments have veracity in the sense that it might cause some confusion, but we already did that, we can do it again. So going back to 7 o'clock meetings, I think is reasonable at this time, and then a discussion at the front end prior to an election, useful.
Could I make one recommendation to maybe mitigate some of the change, is have a lead-up time to that change rather than making it immediate, give it a bit of chance for some, even if it's only a few weeks, to put some press and PR out there that we are going to change it starting June 1st.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I understand
or
that.
July 1st, and then everybody knows, okay, July 1st, it's gonna be such and such a time, as opposed to just changing it, and then it might confuse again, would be my concern. Okay.
And the only thing is, I will add that I'm flexible in regards to the time.
Those of us with no life.
Yeah. So, whatever the majority wants in regards to that time, I can work within that. Councillor Walls.
Your Worship, just a point of clarification, so when would we actually look at changing the date? July 1st? Back to 6? Back to 7?
I'd recommend at least, at the very earliest, June 1st, or the, I think it would be worthwhile spending a few weeks getting some PR out there before we change it. I wouldn't recommend changing it now.
I agree with that.
Even if it was the middle of June of whatever, the second meeting in June, that gives us a month of PR, then we could make sure the press picks it up, and that way, hopefully, we at least get a bit of, because then become summer, people go on holiday, and
Thank you.
is that a reasonable strategy? You okay with that? If you want to bring that up, we'll bring it, so we'll make that change in the procedure bylaw when it comes back. Okay. You're good? Thank you.
Yeah, I just have one more thing. Just have
Go
one more
ahead.
thing to add. I missed. We'll be putting or changing in the procedure bylaw as well, that committee of the whole meetings will be recorded as well, because right now it's just regular and special council meetings.
Thank you. And after we come out of committee of the whole, we'll take the recommendation on the...
Your Worship?
yes.
You can move the recommendation in committee of the whole. It's just recommending that administration bring rise and report at the next,
Oh,
or with the amended bylaw.
okay.
So moved, Your Worship.
So we have a recommendation that council instruct administration to draft and bring forward an amending bylaw for the council procedural bylaw based on the recommendations within this report. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? We don't have to vote, do we?
No, not on a
No.
It's
recommendation.
just a recommendation.
Okay. I'd rather. Next item is a client satisfaction survey. And were you going to report on that, Ms. Swatsky?
Sure, Your Worship. So administration received communication from Councillor Sobel in regard to this matter, and administration is bringing it forward for council's discussion.
Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll just read this out so I don't forget any part of it. On occasion, I do hear the very rare complaint from some residents in regards to their interactions with some of town employees. My first reaction in response to this is always that this is a matter best and only dealt with by our CAO, who has the sole responsibility for the conduct and performance of these employees, and I encourage those people to make contact with CAO Thackeray in person or by email. Having said that, and recognizing that we are an organization based on public service, my question is whether or not we should be getting a little more aggressive in ensuring our clients are receiving the type of service that is consistent with our mission, vision, and values. And I'm wondering if senior administration is contemplating any plans to introduce some sort of client satisfaction survey with clients after services have been completed.
Administration?
So, we certainly can. At present, we have a process where people can come in and raise issues through the front office. They can register complaints. They get tracked. So I'm wondering whether this is you're thinking to expand the scope of that, or are you thinking something specific to individual programs? So if we have a program for aquatics, for example, and we would do a client satisfaction survey, fill out this survey and get a 10% off something.
Well, I don't know that I want to turn this into a gift for doing something, but
Okay,
I'm
that
talking
makes-
about anybody that has significant interaction with our employees. Get an email address and send them a survey as to, and ask them to rate the service that was that they were provided. And I'm thinking. Personally, I'm thinking more of a positive thing. I think this would be a great assistance to senior administration in regards to performance reviews. Certainly, that was some of the things that I did as a supervisor with the RCMP. Is we did contact complainants and ask them how did
your
things go?
service today?
Were you contacted? Were the rules, were the policies that were in place followed? There's a lot of people that simply will not take the initiative. And yes, I get that that's their responsibility, but I think it might be our responsibility a little bit too to push the envelope and to actually aggressively go after comments and ensure that things are working the way we want them to be working.
So now I think I understand what you're saying. You're talking about a internally activated process rather than a passive where somebody says,
Yes.
can I, or if you want, you can do such and such. This is what you're saying. Okay,
I'm talking specifically going after clients
yeah, okay.
that we deal with.
If I may, I think that the strategy that I've used related to that is using that as part of an external communications process, because it actually, you're right, it does provide some data as to how are we doing. Because we don't have an internal, let alone external communications plan, but we do have money, and we are Jenna and I actually are looking for a communications person. So we could look at it in that regard. I think it's a good idea. I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it'd be very helpful.
Councillor Graychuk?
Thank you. Just quickly, to tag along, it's the same but different. The question I get often is, and as a councillor, I don't know the answer sometimes, that when there's a new building going up or, some construction being done, we are not familiar enough with what's going on. Is there a way to let council and the public know that that new building is going to be Taj Mahal or something like that or whatever? A lot of times I don't know. Is there a way you can tag along in that, let us know, we just don't know?
So you're thinking about emerging or new applications for something that's coming up? Is that-
Yeah.
So we're actually looking at an online application tracking tool. So you could go onto our website and look at it and say, oh, there's where the application's at. It's at the preliminary stage, it's at this and that, and you'll actually be able to see what's actually being tracked. So it would show us all, and that's, the new legislation's gonna require us to have complete full disclosure of all our policies, procedures, and processes available to the public on our website. That'll be a statutory requirement.
Is there a way of also adding a short review at some council meetings that there's a new Taj Mahal going up someplace?
Yeah, so you wanna just add, like, just as a monthly report?
Yeah, monthly or quarterly even. Yeah.
Quarterly?
I don't want to put too much work into it, but so long as we know.
Can I think on it a little bit?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Councillor Walls?
Your worship, if I can tag along with Councillor Graychuk, I'd also like to get a little bit of a heads up if construction's gonna be going on. I sometimes get that question as well, is, oh, what's going on down there? And you're like, is something happening
Like
downtown?
capital projects?
Yeah, like a capital
So
update?
you will be shortly, you will be getting bi-weekly or roughly emails with progress on capital projects. It'll tell you what capital project's happening, it'll show you where it's at, and every couple of weeks, you'll see you'll see an update, so it'll actually start to grow, it'll get bigger, so you'll be able to see where you started from and where you are today. So then, well, it'll help in staff internally, it'll help the front counter staff, it'll also help council and the whole team to know, hey, where we're at with general projects. So you'll see that probably June-ish, and you'll see when the projects will be launched and where they're at and what stage they're at. We did it during the flood recovery, it was a really useful tool, and it kept everybody knew what was going on.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So telling everybody, the new building going up on the west end of Strathmore beside the service station is not our new town office?
No, it's not our new town office.
What is it? Can you tell me? I don't know what it is.
Absolutely, it's a restaurant with bar, another liquor store.
Outdoor patio.
And what's upstairs?
Unspecified space.
Pardon me?
An unspecified space at this time.
That's too bad we
Thank
get
you.
a bar from your office.
And it has a patio?
Yep. Yep.
That's too bad we could have had a bar across from the office.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I know.
I shouldn't.
By the way, public, I was just joking.
Yes, we're just joking.
Yes.
Moving on.
Moving on? Okay, good, thank you. Next item on our agenda is the FCM Legal Defense Fund. And Ms. Swatsky, if you could address that issue for us, please.
Yes, Your Worship. Council's received correspondence and an invoice from FCM for contribution to the Legal Defense Fund. Administration is bringing this forward to council to see if they wish to continue contributing.
Councillor Walls?
Your worship, just a quick question to administration, have we used these FCM before? Legal fund?
Not to my knowledge, Your Worship.
We don't use them for legal advice for the town of Strathmore. FCM Legal Defense Funds takes on the federal government. And that's what it's for, is to lobby on our behalf. And I think we've likely been supporting this legal defense fund. I'm suggesting we've been supporting it for several years now.
I think the town has supported it in the past. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Since it's been asked to submit.
Yeah.
So-
This isn't a yearly thing that they're asking for the money. This is sort of a one-off every many years, and what that is, I'm not sure. So I would assume that administration is looking for some direction from council in regards to this, and we should, if we're going to be making a motion, have to do it after we come out of committee of the whole. Okay. Councillor Peterson?
I'm looking for direction from them. I seriously don't know what to do with this. I've never seen it before in my term, and people here, been here a lot longer than me. I see there's always great wisdom in socialization legal process. You know, I can see purposefulness in it, but I really don't have enough information or experience.
They're just asking for the town to make a contribution. It's a very small amount of money.
Yeah.
That's all they're asking for. It's not required. It's entirely at your discretion. I think it's meant just to be, you want to help out. And they've asked all the municipalities and local governments across Canada to chip in. As far as I understand, their fund has been depleted, and they're looking at trying to rebuild it. That's all. We could get you more information if you like.
No, I think there are people here who know better than me.
No, we, okay, Ms. Swatsky, you have the floor. I think we're doing 6.5 Ag Society now?
Yes, Your Worship. A few weeks ago, administration sent an email out to council asking council to help set a date to meet with the Agricultural Society. Council invited the Agricultural Society to meet with them regarding numerous matters between council and the Ag Society and their relationship. Administration is bringing this to council to hopefully set a date that council can meet with the Ag Society.
Do we have any recommendations in regards to what would work? Or is it just totally open right now? It's open.
Your Worship.
Councillor Walls.
Thank you, Worship. We have a unique month. There's 5 Wednesdays in this month. That potentially may be an opportunity for us to send the date of May 31st off to them.
May 31st would work for likely everybody except for Councillor Graychuk and myself, because we are out of town at FCM, unfortunately.
Oh.
I'll take
Worship,
another recommendation.
Your Worship, perhaps May 24th would work.
Sorry. If you don't want me there, it's okay.
We want you there. Councillor Graychuk.
Thank you. I'd just like to have it at a regular meeting, or because it costs money to get extra staff in and everything else. I mean, why can it wait till June? Yeah.
And we would just schedule them as a delegation in camera?
And
I'm good with that.
If that works, June 14th, Committee of the Whole. Thank you. And if you would be so kind as to make sure that you send out that notification so I can make sure that I put it on my calendar so I don't mess up. Thank you. And next is 6.6, and that was FCSS, was it? Chief West, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. More updates than as information for council. For those councilors that are available, I just want to provide some upcoming dates for some FCSS events. The FCSS Open House is at Wheatland County on May the 17th. It's both the town as well as the rural FCSS organizations demonstrating and sharing their what they're about. And so the time is 1 till 3 o'clock at the county office. They are the handouts that look like this. You don't have one right now. I just got this today, but okay. The second one by calendar date is a reminder of the poverty simulation, which is on June 7th at Strathmore Civic Center. It's the morning of the 9th to the 12th. Recommended for as many people that can attend, but primarily the reception and the people that have first contact with individuals to be able to address or look for signs, symptoms, opportunities where people would need potentially some assistance but aren't reaching out for that assistance. And it's a simulation, so there's actors that are portraying individuals, and it's a 3-hour activity. Again, at the Strathmore Civic Center, and it's June the 7th. Okay. And just a reminder of Seniors Week, I know that the mayor and one of the councillors was at the recent coffee, I think it was yesterday morning. This morning? Oh, yeah, the interagency was today at lunch, sorry. They're starting to come together now. So this is the pamphlet with all of the activities for that week. And we look forward to seeing you for the pancake breakfast at the Fire Hall on June the 5th.
Councillor Sobel?
I'm not sure who would answer this question, but will this be on our website,
Yes, sir.
Facebook, whatever?
I actually just realized when I looked, I tried to send out an email earlier tonight to council with copies of this online, and it didn't send for some reason, big file. But if we could put this on, I think there's still, there's a couple of errors in it, minor errors. And as soon as they're rectified, then if we could put it up on our website, that would be wonderful.
Councillor Peterson, did you also want to mention the calendar that seniors issued?
So, see, what the Seniors Advisory Committee is doing every month is preparing a calendar of events that look like this, of items of interest to seniors. And you had already indicated, Ms. Sawatsky, that you would put this up on the website. So I did tell them that this morning. And I believe that Michael and I met with the seniors coffee group this morning. It's not the advisory, it's an informal coffee group. And then that they have every Wednesday morning in the library bonus room. And then the interagency happened this afternoon, and I believe that they conferred this. But it's really interesting, the comments of the leader of the senior advisory today said, you know, seniors are always saying there's nothing to do in town, but part of it is this lack of communication. And so here we have 2 pages of May calendar of events for seniors at little or no cost. And it really is, it's making a huge difference to the numbers of seniors that we're seeing coming out to many, many events and activities in the community.
And if I could just add something to that, Councillor Peterson, one of the things that they mentioned was to be able to get their information out to seniors in regards to this. And when they mentioned it, I'm wondering if we are working towards the ability to coordinate all of the information in regards to the projects and the meetings and what's going on in our town. So there is maybe sort of one central location because that's one of the things that I hear, that sometimes it gets missed and there's a duplication. And it's not an easy thing, by the way. I know that. Councillor Peterson.
Ms. Watsky, you already told us that administration was looking into additional room in the paper, that you were going to look into that and bring it forward at a future time.
Yes, Your Worship. I brought up a report at the last regular council meeting for council, indicating that if council so choose, we could bring forward a report. And I believe council instructed us to do that at the June committee, the whole meeting, so that will be coming
Yeah,
forward.
so, and so I did tell the seniors advisory, advised them of that might be a possibility in the future. And that it might be something, our director of recreation suggested that a really good idea for the seniors would be to maybe either on their own or partnering with the town, in light of what Mayor has said, go together and put in a larger space for advertising activities within the town. And as many of the seniors have said, we don't have computers, especially those that are living in assisted care or in the lodge. They don't have access to Wi-Fi and those kinds of things. So they didn't bring their computers, or they've given them up. And so they all do read the newspaper. That's one thing that we have heard. So I think it's something that we could definitely look at. And they took the Director of Recreation's suggestion very to heart. It was appreciated.
Thank you. And I think we can proceed to 6.7, which is ladder number 1. Chief West, you have the floor.
Thank you again. Good news, bad news story for council. Original estimates were going to be that the pump replacement for ladder 1 due to rocks in the pump and embedded in the impellers was going to be, could be as much as $45,000. The good news is that it is all-in costs are $24,987. Some of us used up as much equity as we may have in the industry to try and achieve that. But bad news is it's $25,000. The good news is it's not $45,000 for the pump replacement.
Thank you. Councillor Graychuk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could you explain to me how do rocks get in our, I mean, isn't EPCOR, that's why they flush the lines and do stuff like that?
Yes, sir. I can't explain to you because there are screens on the apparatus as well. There's only one place on the apparatus where there is no screen between the tank and the pump itself, and that is if that is when you top fill the truck. We don't top fill the trucks. It just doesn't happen. So I can't explain how the rocks got into the pump in any way, shape, or form. There's no damage on the screens, on both of the inlets, on either side. There is no reasonable explanation for how the rocks got into that.
I'm scared to take a shower now and let them get hit by a rock.
Watch out. Yeah, change your screen on your...
But having said that, seriously, could we ask administration to get an explanation from EPCOR as to how rocks can get into, they're supposed to flush these lines.
Councillor Graychuk, we have somebody who may shed a little light on it. Mr. McCann, if you wish.
Thanks. Through the chair, after Trent brought this forward, we did have a discussion with EPCOR. This is a common issue, not a common issue, sorry, being rocks in a fire pump, but a common issue. There are rocks in the water line. There's debris in the water line at all times. You generally only see them when they do their flushing, but the flushing is not to flush out all the debris. It's just to clean out the system. The screens on the truck are the part that keeps the pump safe. Similar to any truck that brings in water through a hydrant, they would have those screens as well. Rocks and debris in the water line is common everywhere.
Councillor Sobel?
Thanks. So I've never seen one of these screens, but are the rocks that we're talking about, would they have been able to go through the screen?
No, sir.
I don't know what size rocks we're talking about. We're not talking about.
About the size of my thumb.
Oh, so I guess second question, could someone have gained access through the top? Is that secured?
No, it's not secured.
Okay, thanks.
If I might just further in regards to what Councillor Sobel was exploring, we had an issue in regards to a pump on another fire truck. Was that fire truck also, could you also fill it at the top?
Yes, you could.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you very much for your help. Now, that takes care of all of our items in regards to Committee of the Whole. And so my question is, because we have items here that must go in camera, do you wish us to come out of Committee of the Whole, make any motions that we need to, and then go into in camera? It's at your direction.
Your worship, it's at council's discretion.
Let's make the recommendations first.
Okay, I agree. So,
Your worship, if I may,
Yes.
we may be discussing something in camera that we may want to make a motion, so why can't we wait?
well, if we discuss something in camera, then we will come out of in camera and pass the
Well, we're doing
motion.
double take here, is what I'm saying. Let's do it all at once.
People might be able to leave. though.
Yes, but then it allows some people to leave.
Pardon me? Save money, yeah.
Your worship, if council's ready and prepared to make a motion?
Councillor Walz?
Your worship, I'd move to come out of the committee of the whole.
We have a motion to come out of committee of the whole. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And do we want to have a, oh, yes, go ahead, Councillor Peterson, you have some,
I would move the council pass a resolution in support of active participation in regional emergency preparedness planning and recommend the CAO provide and sign a letter of support as provided.
thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And there is another one that we
Page
wish-
41.
Page 41, you've got it?
Actually, no, I lie. Page, no, it's not 15. 15 we already did. It's the FCM one, page 35.
There we go.
So it's just for discussion if we want a resolution, I don't know.
That's for discussion, and if we want to pass the resolution, I'll take it.
Your worship, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I will accept one.
Thank you, your worship. I'm not even sure what page we're on, but I would move that council pay the invoice of 300. I would move the council approve regarding a contribution to FCM rather, legal fund, the amount of $297.17.
Thank you, Councillor Walz. We have a motion.
Oh, do you need where the funds will be drawn from? Thank you.
We have a motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
One opposed. Did you oppose?
Yeah, I'm opposed. I don't see that you need reason for it.
Oh, you opposed? Opposed? We have one opposed. I didn't catch that one, thank you. Were you also looking for a motion in regards to the procedural bylaw?
No, you have a recommendation.
We have a recommendation, we're okay?
Do we need a motion for you?
Motion to go in camera?
Do we need a motion for him?
That is his motion, he got it. He got his motion. Yeah.
So, then, is there anything else we need before we go in camera?
Oh, do you
You
need a
need
motion
a
to pay for
motion
the
to pay
pump?
for the pump.
No, it's already, it's just less than what it was originally.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'll take a motion to go in
Your
camera
worship, I move to go in camera at 7:42.
for items under freedom of
Yeah, under-
information and protection of privacy. Thank you very much. We have a motion to go in camera. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.